Sasaki from United States. All the four of us, over 60 or 70 bloggers around the world, have been participating in the last 2 days in the first edition, organized in Bucharest, Romania. So I would like to ask you, what are the general impressions? The forum is just about to end. Maybe we can try to form some general opinion. Starting with you, Matthias.
For me, I find this really interesting. And when World Blogging Forum sounds a bit grandiose, I would maybe scale it down and say, it's East Web, kind of the Eastern European Web Conference. And it's absolutely great to meet bloggers from Armenia, from Azerbaijan, from all this area that we don't really know. They're tweeting in Armenia, they're tweeting in Azeri, and from Turkey, etc. So I think that was really great to meet them. World Blogging Forum, I don't know. The other idea is blogging is kind of last century. Maybe we should, to define a blogger today. Yeah. Well, it's anyone who shares his thoughts on, any
sort of. What do they mean, for example, if someone's only tweeting?
If somebody's only tweeting, he's a blogger.
Okay.
For me, he's a blogger.
I don't know, I think the entry point into citizen media 5 years ago, it would have been a blog, no matter what. If you had something that you wanted to say to somebody, you would open up a blog and you would publish it. Now it's probably much more likely that you'd open up a Twitter account or a Facebook account. But yeah, whether you call that person a blogger or a new media activist, pretty soon we're all going to be doing this, so you're just going to be a person. I don't think there's going to be a word for it.
Well, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a good opportunity for bloggers from different parts of the world to meet and to share their experiences and to make use of other people's experiences if they think that they can find anything applicable in their own countries. And this is my first time to meet bloggers from Eastern Europe and the former Soviet republics. I usually go to conferences where most of the bloggers are from the Middle East, but this is a different experience for me to get to know bloggers from other parts of the world.
So, in general, are you hoping to see the second edition?
Yeah, I think that would be nice. I'd like to see it be much more grassroots. So this forum over the past 2 days was sponsored by the Romanian government. Yeah, actually my impression is that it has been very grandiose. And the viewers won't be able to see this, but we're in a hall of the parliament of the largest...
It will be a special shot.
Okay, so we get to see it in the beginning. Yes. I mean, it's wild. We're at the heart of Romanian power in what has been a very powerful place. We're distracted a little bit.
I mean, the location is grandiose. This is the second biggest building in the world after the Pentagon. What I found a bit sad is, you touched upon grassroots. I would have liked to see an audience more.
Maybe we are all.
We are live.
Okay, now I wanted to.
Excuse me,
Just in 5 minutes,
Okay.
This is it when you don't have a camera.
You need a very large camera, and then people get intimidated and they won't want to come by.
Going back to the topic, we are in a very amazing place, as we said, and the topics we have been discussing are also quite serious, and especially when it comes to human rights violation towards bloggers. I mean, can you share your thoughts about that, Wael? I mean, you have unfortunately some experience with that.
Yeah. Well, Egypt is relatively one of the countries that is really oppressive when it comes to bloggers. Not as much as China, not as obvious as China. Maybe when things are obvious in some countries, it's easier for the bloggers there to talk about what they are facing. But in some countries that pretend to be free and pretend to have freedom of expression, it's a little bit harder, because what astonished me when I came to this conference is that I found that a large number of the bloggers present here, they have no idea that this is the situation in Egypt. They have this idea about that Egypt is...
Sorry, there was one person who said a nice sentence yesterday, that Egypt for many people, especially in Europe, is Sharm el-Sheikh.
Yeah, Sharm el-Sheikh and the pyramids and tourism and sunny and Mubarak is a good guy, he's a democratic president and all this kind of stuff, but they don't know the reality of what's going on.
For me, that's been the greatest part of the conference, is spreading the awareness of that, because a lot of people were retweeting it in their own networks and blogging
it's not
about
only
it.
Egypt, that lots of countries of the region are really suffering horrible conditions when it comes to freedom of expression. Like, for example, Saudi Arabia is one of the biggest allies of the United States and Europe in the region. But if you look at the conditions of women and children and bloggers and journalists, it's really horrible.
But that's been the case for a long time, and what we're seeing with new media is that now that awareness is starting to spread in a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. There was a Saudi blogger who was in prison, and we've been able to campaign to free him, and he's free at the moment, but he's not allowed to travel abroad. So it's the same applies to countries like Syria, like Tunisia, who nobody never hear anything bad about Tunisia, but it's the same. They have a dictator and he rigs the presidential elections. So that's what I was hoping for the second round of this forum, to have more bloggers from this region, from the Middle East. There is one from Egypt, which is me, and one from Turkey, and one from Israel. But I hope that there are more from other countries of the region that can tell you their own experiences, because we've got bloggers killed in Libya and in Syria. And
we have the very fresh story there today. I mean that now. Prosecuted for 2 years and 2 years and a half.
yeah.
But as you said, I mean, you're dealing with also not only rising voices, but with threatened voices. Yes, it's part of Global
That's
Voices.
Sami Ben Garbia. He's the director of advocacy for Global Voices, and he launched that project.
Yeah, but as far as I remember, there's according to your stat, there's 195.
185 bloggers who are either arrested, detained, or threatened in some way.
You have a great Google Maps website there.
Yeah, especially with showing the tipping points.
Exactly.
They did a fantastic job. There's a timeline also, so you can see a timeline of when bloggers were arrested and when they were freed.
How does it work, this system? Because I've seen that you can become a trucker, yes?
Yes, that's right.
I don't want to interrupt, but Sami Ben Garbia, for example, is a Tunisian blogger who had to flee the country. He's not living in Tunisia at the moment. He is blogging from Europe because of all the persecution that he had to face.
And actually, I mean, you were saying that you wanted more bloggers from the Middle East to be here. There's going to be an Arab bloggers meetup in Beirut.
Yeah, I'm going to be there. Yeah.
We'll both be there.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's a great spot to get more of this information out.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so David, can you tell a few words about the Rising Voices, your current project?
Sure. Well, I guess to backtrack a little bit, Global Voices, actually next month we're going to celebrate the 5th anniversary of Global Voices, which is pretty exciting because in internet years it feels like it's been 25 years. So when we started Global Voices, which is an online aggregator, curated editorial aggregator of bloggers from all around the world, we came across 3 big problems. There was censorship, which is something that we talked a lot about today, and so we launched advocacy and threatened voices, which we had mentioned. And then there was a problem of multilingualism. Everything that we were publishing on Global Voices at the beginning was all in English. So it was only accessible to English speakers, which is a very narrow percentage of the population. And so we launched the Lingua Project, which translates Global Voices content into 18 different languages now, including some that
I know there's
Malagasy from Madagascar, which gets a lot of press, Swahili, and now we're starting to do a lot more Russian content. And the third obstacle is that most bloggers in the world that we were covering during the first 2 or 3 years tended to be based in upper to middle class neighborhoods in urban capitals around the world. And we weren't hearing much from people who lived in the rural countryside or from the poor neighborhoods in large cities. And so we wanted to make the global conversation a little bit more representative of what the global population is like. And so with the support of the Knight Foundation and OSI, we started Rising Voices, which gives small macro grants up to $5,000 to groups who want to do training programs, new media training programs in communities where there aren't many bloggers right now.
So this is a quite nice mixture we have today because you're actually empowering blogospheres, different communities. You have problems in your country and you're dealing with the big shots actually.
I'm dealing with the big shots. I'm dealing with the corporations.
The guy in the suit.
The guy in the suit. I thought I should represent. The World Economic Forum is one of the most exclusive conferences in the world, and has spawned the anti-globalization movement in part. In early 2000. Remember the pictures of demonstrations, etc., etc. And of course, the World social forum in Porto Alegre. But I think there has been, some opening. Already there was a video bridge between Porto Alegre and Davos back then. But now, actually, with social media, what we're trying to do is open this very private meeting, which is still a very private meeting, but open it to as many people as we can through the use of social media, through YouTube, through Twitter, and really through Facebook, really get engagement, from the general internet
How
users.
big part of the talks we have is actually touching the social media or internet field? I guess it's rising because the internet is becoming the more
Well, in Davos at the annual meeting, we're trying to cover everything. In not only social media. It's not an internet conference. It's absolutely not. It's traditional companies. It's traditional corporations, but we're trying to cover every single aspect. From pandemics to the economic situation to social media. I mean, there's one idea. We're floating this year. We want to have a crowdsourced social media panel. So basically, getting input from the internet users on who do you want to see on the panel? What are the questions?
One problem with this, at least a problem I've had, is that the most innovative crowdsourcing attempts of trying to get more participation always has to do with social media. And so it's I think it'd be much more interesting to have it be on corporate transparency, for example, trying to get more grassroots participation that way.
In a way, but this is how Davos. I think Davos is kind of a university where CEOs come to learn new things. And for the past 2 years, we had a YouTube video corner at the Congress Center where we basically wanted to have this two-way video conversation that participants in Davos replied to videos from the community. The direct conversation hasn't really happened, so it's rather everybody answering the same question, but it's the first attempt, trying to get, traditional CEOs or politicians into YouTube. I mean, look, we had the Turkish Prime Minister, he went into that corner to answer the question, and guess what, YouTube is still blocked in Turkey today, so, in Turkey, theoretically, they can't easily watch it, so it's kind of slowly bringing them into social media. The Twitter statistics are very clear. 2 years ago, 23 people tweeted from the World Economic Forum in Davos. This year, 60 plus, and next year, in January, I think it will be over 200. And we're not talking about media journalists, we're talking about participants. And they're sitting right in there, and they're telling you exactly what they think about the session, etc. So it's immediate feedback that you get from the participants is absolutely amazing. So slowly, you have the CEOs, they're going into social media.
Before we jump to the rest of the discussion, could you please explain in few words what has happened to you, the whole situation with blocking of the Facebook accounts
Well, bloggers in Egypt, they don't really have money to spend on having their blogs hosted in independent hosts, so they use the free services. I am one of these people, and I have to upload my videos to YouTube, my pictures to some website. My blog is hosted on a French host. This in a way makes it more popular because YouTube has a lot of people there, and with proper tagging you can get a lot of viewing to your videos. My videos, for example, were seen by over 30 millions on YouTube. So, but the thing is, people can flag your video and say that it's inappropriate. And this is what happened, or maybe something more. I don't want to be. Don't want to go into the conspiracy theory and say that there is some collaboration between our government and Google, which owns YouTube, which resulted in disabling my account. But in the end, my account was disabled, and they said that I have posted videos that are violating the terms of service. And that's why they removed it. And when I asked them, they didn't answer back. Only when it made it to CNN and Fox News, they had to respond, and they said that I didn't provide enough context for the videos that I have posted, which were mainly videos of torture inside police stations, violence and demonstrations and stuff like that. So that basically was the problem with YouTube.
David, aren't you afraid? I mean, you're building a power resource person, and probably some of the countries are still politically unstable. Aren't you afraid that the situation situation like this might occur in those countries when people will empower more bloggers.
It's a possibility. I wouldn't use the word empowering. I would say networking. I'm trying to introduce people to people who can, host more training workshops, introduce people into networks so they have more social capital. It's a fear and something that there's a specific case in Madagascar where we have one of these projects called Fuku Madagascar. They were tweeting about and blogging about everyday things, their everyday stories, their lives, and then something very unexpected happened. There was a coup that took place in Madagascar. It was one of the first coups in Africa for quite a while. And there was a lot of violence on the streets, people were getting shot. Actually, one of the trainers of the blogging group was shot and he was killed. And so we tried to really stress via Skype, via email messages, that your safety is much more important than going out there and getting some photograph that's amazing. But there is a temptation because they were the go-to sources of news. The local radio stations, some of them were shut down, and so these bloggers got a lot of international attention. And if they got some really juicy photograph or a piece of news, then they would get more attention. And so there's a danger in that, and we try to be smart about it.
Maybe there is a way for the two of you to cooperate somehow. You have the Europe depictions.
Well,
Don't you want to invite Malagasy bloggers to the World Economic Forum?
that would be an idea. Absolutely, no.
You should do it.
Yeah, no. I mean, we're trying to really. The World Economic Forum has been for a very long time very European, North American centered. So we have opened. We're really trying to open
Because
to Asia.
the agenda, and there is many globally recognized bloggers coming to Davos. Correct? Yes.
Sorry.
There is many globally recognized web people coming to Davos this year. For example.
Not as many as I would like. It's a very small quota that I can invite, unfortunately. But it's mainly the ones which have the biggest audience. Which are the US bloggers. We're trying. Basically also with our participants. Really trying to get media bloggers from other countries. From Asia, from Indonesia. I mean, I really want to bring them to Davos.
Maybe they don't have as large of an audience as some of the American bloggers.
Of course not. No, of course
maybe they would be able
Bloggers
to.
are already in all the countries outside America as well.
They could add a perspective and diversity that would be so much more valuable.
Listen, I hear you loud and clear. It's a register. It's really. We really want to open that. You have to. It's like we've opened to China. We had a conference in China since 1979. So we're in China. In China, YouTube is blocked. Flickr is blocked. Our blog, of course, is blocked. So what do you do? You have to go through Twitter clients. But then the other thing in China, you can then go to the local sites. We've set up our videos on YouTube. The Chinese YouTube. Very few people know that it's almost as big as YouTube, if not bigger in terms of minutes of videos viewed. So there are sites there. Even in China, despite the Great Firewall, there is some internal. People are more or less free, but there is of course self-censorship.
Okay, well, that's definitely one thing good about the World Economic Forum, that, as you said, huge networking happened, and although we would like to see people from other countries, that's the first event. So we were about that. We may start to judge it in 3 or 4 editions, maybe. They did a huge job actually. And I learned about it 6 weeks ago, I think. They started to feature first guests. And I mean, for example, World Economic Forum, I think they have like local events. There was one in India, I think, recently, smaller one.
Exactly, we have regional events. I mean, everybody knows us as Davos, but we have half a dozen regional events, around. India was just passed.
Maybe that would be also the idea of building a local World Economic Forum.
I think it's a strategy for a lot of. TED is doing the same thing with their TEDx conferences.
yes.
There's always going to be attention for groups like the World Economic Forum and like the TED of needing to open up more and not being too exclusive. You're going to be criticized, but opening up too much, and then you don't have the exclusivity. You don't have brand power that makes you so sexy that people will, willing to pay the big bucks to go there. So it's a very delicate balance, I think.
Okay.
No, I think it's great. TED, all the videos are online. Piecemeal, but it's brilliant.
But the social capital is still very concentrated. If you want to be part of the TED network, if you want to have a chance to talk to Al Gore or have some sort of influence, you have to pay a lot of money and you have to know the right people.
Yeah, absolutely.
But definitely one nice and funny thing about this forum is that it's actually happening in a very nice building. I mean, usually the whole social media branch, the media branch, it's a Barcamp-based and small venues. Everything is not so fancy here. Don't you think it's a small sign that the bloggers are actually more and more listened?
I think here we have to thank the Romanian government. I mean, they've basically put up the money to invite us all here. Of course, with maybe there was a reason. There's a presidential election in a couple of weeks. And we had the president opening the forum. So, but I think it's great. If they will sustain it even in a year without elections like next year, will they invite again? The bloggers from around the world.
Well then, we'll see that in a year. Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Thank you for hosting you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.